Tracy.
Yes.
Tina.
Here.
Tabitha.
Here.
April.
Here.
Amber.
Here.
Any public participation?
We have Heather and Wes are joining us remotely. They're staff, not really public, but we are also on YouTube Live. So
Thank you, Lynn.
yes, you're welcome.
Other than that, I don't see any. Okay, I need a motion to approve disposal of the records, which is attached to your gray form. I need a motion.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Tabitha,
Yes.
April,
Yes.
Amber.
Yes.
Any other business related to the records commission? Nope. Okay, next meeting, TBD, and we are adjourned.
Yes.
Now, we are gonna move into the regular board meeting. So I'll need a roll call, please.
Mark,
Yes.
Barb,
Here.
Tracy.
Here.
Tina,
Here.
Tabitha.
Here.
April.
Here.
Amber.
Here.
Did I get everything?
I'm gonna go out on a limb because of the last meeting, I did not see any public participation. So I think we're good there.
Someone could have jumped on.
Yeah.
90 seconds.
That's true, Tina. Okay, I need approval of the minutes for the 2025, February 2025 Records Commission meeting and the February 2025 regular board meeting.
Can you do it together?
I'm assuming we can.
Yeah. I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tracy.
Yes.
Tina, Tabitha.
Yes.
April.
Yeah.
Amber.
Yes.
Okay, Lynn, correspondence?
Okay. So, couple of things going on. Public Library Fund came in a little bit over the state's estimates. So we're stable for right now, which is good. I wanted to let you know that the state librarian, Mandy Knapp, sent a message to all library directors, just making sure that we know that while there has been an executive order that impacts them, they believe that everything is good, that they're doing the minimum and they're not doing anything extra that would be cut. Do not be daunted by uncertainty. Together we can weather any storm. Calm, cool. We're just gonna keep on doing what we do. As far as the state and Ohio Library Council, Ohio Library Council is really focused on what's going on at the state level, not at the federal level, because we have a state budget that's going to more directly impact library funding. Couple of really good proposals to actually increase public library fund percentage. But there's still a long time before June 30th, when they usually end up passing the budget. So April 8th, I believe, is legislative day for libraries. So we'll be going to the State House to visit our representatives and senators and making sure they see us as well as just hear from us. House Bill 28 is also something that Ohio Library Council is really working on, because while there's no immediate impact for the Brown County Public Library, to our levy, it could impact possible future replacement levies. So that's something we don't want to see happen. Very interesting thing, of course, the Southwest Chapter Luncheon for Ohio Library Council happens to be April 24th, which is the day after our retreat. It's in the middle of the day, and this planning team, the staff planning team, has our meeting with Andrews in the middle of the day. So I won't be going to it. Normally I go to it. Heather maybe goes to it. And it's always been hit or miss with trustees being able to go. And of course, that's in the middle of a work day, right? So there it is. But if you can go and want to, let me know. We'll get you registered. National Library Week coming up. You can see on our webpage and various activities that are planned at the various branches. And we'll talk more about number 3E later, the virtual meetings law that was passed and becomes effective April 9th. We'll talk about that during the announcements. And we have applied for the summer food service program. We have not heard anything back yet, but you have to apply by individual branches. So it's possible that some branches will be approved and some will not for this. So just FYIs.
And who is that open to grab and go?
It's open to anyone under the age of 18. We do not do any kind of verification. We don't collect names. Yeah. They've really expanded. It used to be, they had come in, sit, eat during a particular time of the day. I mean,
And you are playing like cafeteria and cleaning up.
Yeah, you can't take food out with them. It was really not, it's a great idea and it's supposed to be helpful, but it didn't work.
Right.
So, yeah.
Are there any concerns that the Ohio Library Council about funding, because everybody heard what happened in Bethel
What happened with that?
with the schools? They had, laid off a bunch of teachers. Did you know this, Tabitha?
Yeah, our school's getting ready to do big budget cuts.
It's scary.
We've got
Current administration
stuff going on.
moving towards, private schooling, charter schooling. Bethel had a big drop in, attendance or whatever you call it. And they laid off 10 teachers.
Wow.
They had a very heated board meeting. Yeah, it's for real.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It is a real thing going on right now. And then, of course, it's all about funding.
Yes.
And where the current administration is shifting, I think we will keep a close look on that. for
Yeah,
us because-
we will be talking about that a little bit more depth later too. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's, anything else, Lynn? Okay, so we go on to financial reports, with Ms. Sarah.
Here's your moment to
I
shine.
know, we'll see here. I'm trying to get it to even just, it won't even. Okay. I cannot minimize Zoom Workplace. All right, well, forget that.
Okay, maybe next time.
Wait a minute, let me try one more thing.
I've been going much slow.
Here we go. But I can maximize a folder. Yeah. All right. Which one, Sarah, do we start with?
The appropriation summary. The big one.
There it is, opening up. Okay, I figure I can get it.
That's okay. So it's that middle column that we're looking at, the month-to-date expenditures. And what I do when I'm coming up with my totals is I go through the general fund and I look at all the lines that say salary or employee benefits or purchase and contracted services and so on, and I add them up and then I compare last month to the month I'm talking about. So January versus February for salaries, we were down $3,881. We had a payroll with February being a short month, we had a few payrolls that had a few less days than say January, makes sense. Employee benefits, we were down. I don't want to give you the number because I will show you later on where our health insurance, I did not capture the number in February. The end of the month snuck up on me and I didn't do it until March 3rd. So I won't even tell you that number. Library materials were up 17,146.63. January is a slow month for purchasing things with us getting our budget and everything set, so I would always project that being a higher number. Contracted services, also the same thing, we were up 15,392.81. So month to date, expenditures, January versus February, we were up 18,540.49. The very last page of this report, I just like to point out all funds, month-to-date expenditures. And then this number was 158,223.81. You'll hear me say that number several times throughout this presentation. Next report is the bank reconciliation. So, that second number, receipts, 100,369.42 receipts are what I brought in. A couple of numbers that stand out, PLF for the month of February is 94,972.60. We received another generous donation to Sardinia for $1,000. And then there was a United Way grant for 1,600. So those are the majority of the payments that make up those receipts. Payments, 158,251.98. That's the money that went out. Bringing our last number on this page, bank balance to 998,904.08. I have no outstanding payments for the month of January or February. We had a Baker and Taylor incident where I sent them a check in January, followed up with them last week. They never received it. Don't know if it was on the post office. I don't know if they lost it. So it was over 2 months old and they asked if I could just reissue. So I stopped paying on that. Unfortunately, I hate doing that, but they really went out of their way to look for it, I think, because their sales rep even reached out to me. So next one is cash summary by fund. Yeah.
What's the checks to the treasury, state of Ohio?
That could be a number,
State library, I
yeah.
think.
the state library.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I don't know if we paid, they bill us quarterly for, both the consortium fees for our online catalog and that system. It also includes, they also do the billing for when items are lost and they bill patrons, so that's included in that amount. They charge us for our cataloging our materials, and so all of those fees, and they charge us quarterly, so it varies sometimes because of, oh, you didn't have as many bills go out, or, yeah. Good
Cash
question.
summary by fund. Basically, I look at the kind of middle expenditures again, and there's that 158,000 to 2381. This is just a little snippet of all our funds and how we got to that number. And then you'll see the bank balance, which was on that last report. So kind of some is repetitive. Next one is general fund cash flow.
Cash flow for
And
February.
this is not a report that's generated out of UAN. This is something that Vivian had put together, and it's just something that I'm upkeeping. So what we're looking at is that actual February. So public library fund was 94,972.60. Other receipts, which is like fines and fees, or maybe a small donation that we've captured in the general fund. But that was $696.49. We also capture interest in this category. So People's Bank interest and First State Bank interest would fall into this. Total revenue for February, $95,669.09. Employee salaries, $78,198.56. Employee benefits, $12,389.57. Library materials and services, yeah, $28,333.73. Other operating expenditures, $26,343.38, bringing our total, general fund expenditures, $145,265.24, bringing our general bank balance to $451,495.78. The next one is the expenditure reconciliation report. This is also a report that I've put together that I do not pull out of UAN. I just pulled up the info. So just a breakdown on how we get to that final, the 158,223.81, the number that I keep saying, this is how we back into it. So payments, 70,082. Those are the actual payments, the checks that I cut and mailed out. You'll see the February 14th and the February 28th payroll, 38,562.10 for that 14th and 40,510.05 for that 28th. Board share retirement, $11,070.08. Medicare, $1,095.32. Health insurance, you'll notice at the bottom, I put a little note and it said board share board share health electronic payment was not processed until 3/3. So next month, that's gonna be doubled and it's gonna look really high, but remember, I made a boo-boo. So the next couple, Georgetown, Mount Fayetteville, and Sardinia, those are just the local taxes that were withheld next month. Those are gonna be positive because I'm gonna make the quarterly payments. And then healthcare, insurance, employee out of pocket, I remember that one, $2,222.15, bringing the total expenditures $158,223.81. Payments, these are just the checks that I cut to get to that $70,082. Any questions about any of the payments that I made? All pretty straightforward, nothing out of the normal. Fun summary.
Summary.
Thank you, Vanna.
No response time.
The second to last column, current reserve for encumbrances, that's one of the things I like to point out. We currently have, well, at the end of February, 69,346.53 in open POs. I still have, 2 Ingram POs open. I would imagine those will close as soon as I pay the Ingram bill. And then I still have a small Forward Edge PO open from last year, which probably will get closed too. So. Revenue status is the last report. Not much to really talk about here. This is self-explanatory. This is what we've estimated that we will receive for revenue. And then the year-to-date received, you can see the percentages of what has been brought in through the end of February.
And what are we, 12 points? 16 point something, 16.7% of the way through the year, I think February is. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
So if it's under 17%, you know, then we'd be concerned, but we're.
Yeah.
Coming in good.
So any questions? Did I go too slow? Is that good?
That was perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
It's making so many difference now.
Good,
We've
good,
done it
good.
a few times.
So we are going to need the motion to accept financial investment reports, approve paid bills, and accept donations, please.
I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Barb,
Yeah.
Tracy,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Tabitha,
Yes.
April,
Yes.
Amber.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so it looks like we have a side note here. Shelton Trust donated its holdings to the BCPL, $20,497.19. Monies were received to the Georgetown Renovation Fund to fulfill the Sheldon Trust mission for upkeep of that branch. Any questions about that? No. Okay, on to the executive director's report, starting with the building report and statistics. I'd like to remind everybody, we have Heather and Wes.
Oh, I do have
available
it.
for
Okay, I do have it
questions.
now.
So, before we do, the orange piece of paper I handed out tonight, when Sarah went to go and receive that money in, UAN told her that we had to have a resolution.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay.
so I wrote the resolution and brought it tonight and we had said that would make it official more than just us reporting to that we did what we did with the money.
I could bring it in as revenue, but I can't add appropriations to the fund without a resolution.
Then we need a resolution.
Yes. we did make a resolution.
I resolve we accept the donation.
Thanks, Barb. A second. Anybody wanna, it's for money, it's a good thing. Bart,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Tabitha,
Yes.
April,
Yeah.
Amber.
Yes.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. Yep.
I'm glad you're.
I got to do my Heather plug again.
You know what, if she doesn't unmute and speak, then, yeah. But we do have Brooke here.
Yes, we did. Fayetteville. Yes.
What time was that, so I can make a note, do you know?
I think it was right at the beginning of the
Oh, okay.
meeting.
She's behind me.
Any questions about anything on the building report? Any thoughts? Any,
I love to make a comment. One of the coolest things in the world, one day with the book.
blind date with the book?
That
Yep.
is so cool. So it's the concept of you're coming in not knowing what book you're gonna get, then all of a sudden there's a book and you're stuck with the book for the night.
Some people really loved it, and actually, last year, Barb had done it just for the adults. And she had so many young kids asking, where are the ones for kids, where's the one for kids? That this year, we actually did a bunch of kids books, and it really encouraged kids to step outside their comfort zone for what they usually read and try something different. And it's been a huge hit the last 2 years, so
Yeah, that's awesome.
we're gonna keep
Are
doing it.
are you the only branch that does that?
I'm not sure about the other branches.
They
I think
have-
all the branches have done it at least once or more. It's always been really popular. I think even our friends are thinking about doing something similar as a fundraiser.
Interesting.
Speed dating,
Speed
kind
dating.
of the older, like the young adult, middle school, high school people.
Ah,
Uh-huh.
that's interesting. Speed dating.
Tell you about it.
Yeah.
Later.
Isn't that where they, the boys are on one side, girls on the other, and you just go down?
Yes, but you do it with the book instead, and so there's a timer, and then you have to change seats and check and check and check and check, so that you're.
Yeah.
Get a chance to see it, and you get the books, and you'll be picked. But when you take them,
That's cool. But anyway, what I said, comment on it.
I have a shout out for the Starting Hill Library. As always, his staff is amazing. So my son is on this brunch kick. And there's this book that he wanted. So we went to the library. They don't have it. They were able to do an interloan. And they knew how excited I was. They told me at 8 o'clock Monday morning and said, we have the book. We'll be here till 7 or. And I couldn't get there on Monday. So on Tuesday, I forgot about it, and my son was like, oh my gosh, so I called him at 4:45, and I said, I know you're closing in 15 minutes. If I run up there, I'll take my run in. They're like, oh yeah, no problem. I pull up to the door, they're waiting at the door, they already had it ready for me to go, and literally just handed it to me. I was like, you guys are amazing.
Service.
I know, I'm like,
Service, yeah.
so I have to shout out to the starting staff.
Yeah.
Because they knew how important that was.
Yay.
That's pretty cool.
So Wes and his staff. thank you.
Yeah, Wes, be sure to pass that on to your staff members, please.
So
Anything else?
yeah, I just wanted to say February we had our Criminal Justice Academy. And not only were the kids amazed and parents amazed, and we received so much good feedback, but the people that volunteered, they were so impressed. They were so happy to be involved. They connected so well with the kids. Like one of my favorite things was where Judge Courtney Worley was there, and we had our panel and they were asking questions, and she said there was a little girl, probably 8 or 9, that said, look, Mom, it's a girl judge. And she was just really excited to see that because, that's kind of our goal. And I told her, we want these kids, no matter what gender or age or whatever, to have these visions and, shoot for the stars. So it was a lot of fun and we're excited about the next one.
Yeah, it was neat. The county prosecutor also was there, to have, have him, have people from the local police department. Yeah, they were really excited, and I'm glad they got to see some of what we do.
Thank you, Heather. Anything else with building report before we move on to statistics? No.
So-
Okay, Renee? statistics?
Okay, so February, short month, right? So typically the numbers are down a little bit. Weather also can interfere with people going to the library, and illness. I think Brooke had mentioned, some of their planned programs had not been as well attended as they had expected because of illness. So, but I look at, what's going on, and I don't look too closely at whether we're on track to hit what we hit last year, because it's too early in the year. We have some reading program that blows, all of our numbers out of any proportion. So what I would like to point out, though, is that in the collection section, about a third up from the bottom of the page, you probably will be seeing more of the negative numbers in the next month or so as friends groups get ready for their spring book sales. We try to make sure that we needed the collection of the things that, you know, people are looking for, so. But yeah, that's not a lot to talk about as far as the numbers this month.
Do you know when, do you have like dates posted for the sale somewhere?
Well, they're supposed to be showing up on our events calendars, I
Mhm.
believe. And I know end of May, I've seen a couple of them, the friends committing to them. I don't know, Heather, is that yours, one of them, or no? Or
I
Wes?
think Fayetteville's is around Mother's Day. Is that
Okay,
right?
that could
Ours is during Library Week, National Library Week.
coming up soon.
Yeah, ours is around, Mother's Day.
Yeah.
But the friends have their meeting next week, and that's when they'll like approve the official dates for it.
Okay,
But it's that week of Mother's Day.
thank you.
And I'm pretty sure Georgetown is at the end of May. I seem to recall seeing that.
Okay, Lynn, on to announcements, please.
Yes, if I can find my announcements over here. Okay, so, when I say minor plumbing issues at the facilities, you know, an adjustment on the staff commode in Mount Orab, and thankfully a clog that was easily fixed at Sardinia, so it wasn't, you know, we're having to replace pipes or anything, so that's good. And the vehicle that ran over the curb, you know, it's not the first time that's happened, even though there's ornamental grass and a bush there and, you know, a rock, a big rock. But I have said to Heather, I think we need to look at just a section of like a picket fence to put up. So it's not terribly high, but even putting reflectors on one side of the fence, just to keep people, because it's a little peninsula. If you drive up and you're gonna put something in the book drop, and then you need to drive around this little peninsula because there are actually parking spots on the other side of the peninsula, they drive over the peninsula rather than going around it. Yeah, it's weird.
When, putting the fence up just means they're gonna hit fence.
Well, and that's, I know, we've tried standing reflectors, we've tried, I mean, it's
Can I
just,
offer a suggestion?
please.
You know, just because, you know, in our neighborhood, I see people do this and it's very, very effective.
Okay,
You have to put the big rocks.
big rock.
I mean, not monster rocks.
Okay.
I mean, you know how high up a car sits
Mhm.
and where the undercarriage is and where the bumper is.
So
That seems to be
Just high
the
enough.
biggest deterrent, because people can hit, you know, go over landscape and just drive
Yeah.
off. People can hit a fence and drive off rock. That seems to scare people, deter them.
Not this time, but go ahead.
So,
Heather.
I'm going to just say a couple years ago, we actually had a bigger rock in that flower bed and a teenage girl drove through it and it pulled the rock out and her car literally was stuck on the rock and the fire department had to come and pick the car up off of the rock.
Lesson for a young
Young
lady
person.
driver, yes,
Yeah.
very good, but what you do is you line it, you know, the outline.
Yeah.
You know, you don't put it back, it has to be to the front.
Yeah,
maybe in a whole circle.
That's just my suggestion,
yeah,
that's what I know.
we're gonna work on it. Yeah, I had come up with that fence, at least it would be tall enough and, you know, they might see it more, but yeah. But just wanted you to know that that was the case. You had received the community engagement report, in your packets. Something that I think is less visible that we do is attend the Drug Coalition meetings. I think it's really important for us to know what's going on in our communities as far as both supports for people who are having struggling with drugs, but, you know, also seeing, you know, is there opportunity to talk to someone that can help us if we actually had an issue? So, so that's a little less visible than some of the other things we do. Sarah mentioned that we had a small grant, and the very last thing on that list, the Success by 6. That is a program that's, I believe, coordinated by United Way. And we participate in it on a regular basis. And our, Adriana, who's usually in attendance, is so good at advocating about the library, what we do, how we're helping kids who are under 6. And so that led to United Way saying, we'd love to support your early literacy kits and giving the donation so that our next Storytime season, which runs, essentially the school year, we'll have the funding to buy all the supplies for the kits that can be enhance their experience at home. So that's really exciting to me. Funding, I just want to point out that, there are 2 lines talking about things we're doing with E-rate. It's an all year thing. You're always filing forms or having vendors come and see what it is you're asking for, or, doing contracts. It just never ends. So that was the only big one, I believe. There is the last one, letter F. We did submit an LSTA grant application. Now, LSTA is a program run by the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Its funding comes from there through the state library, and then the state library makes grants available. So this is one of those things that we've kind of in the back of our heads gone, well, is the money really committed to the state library at this point, or is this one of those things that might be impacted? So we know that it could be impacted, but I believe the State Library Board meets later this week or next week, and then they'll be announcing whether or not those are actually awarded. So
My guess is they're gonna push them out the door as fast as they can.
spend every bit of money before it goes. Yes, I would guess the same thing. Yep. We did do a staff in service last Friday, and I gave you a little packet. We didn't have a lot of handouts this time around, but one of the new things that we did was we had a naming contest, and it ended up being called the BCPL Buzz, and we have had various staff members do very short reports on things that are timely going on at the library. And so far, the survey results, because we always ask for evaluations about that being service day, was that was a really good thing for them to hear. They really liked hearing that. So it's great. I don't have to talk all the time because other people are involved in talking too. So that was good. And I think that was the big news from that. Number 5, our new property, we had to pay the taxes in order to file for exemption. So we are,
So did you get it back?
well, not yet.
But you could.
Yes, we should be getting it back.
Okay.
Yes. But I want you to know that we had to pay it in order to even file for exemption. So,
Yeah, they said they wouldn't send the paperwork till Columbus till they had a check in hand.
yep. Funny, huh? Number 6. Okay, here's where we're going to talk a little bit more about the executive orders coming from the federal government. I gave you a piece of paper tonight that shows you where federal money goes to the state library and how the state library uses that funds. It's a little graph there.
Oh, Lisa.
Did I not hand you one?
I have the staff development day one. Is the other one in
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's it. You got it. Oh, she didn't have one. Okay.
Okay.
It should be.
Is it in
It
there?
should be in.
What's it called?
Ohio something.
I found it.
Yeah.
I found it.
Okay. So some big things that impact the state library and their federal funding. I'm going to point out 4 of those things on that graph. So you can see Ohio Web Library, the dark blue, $1.5 million of federal funds is what state library uses. Those are the databases that are freely accessible to citizens through our websites and through their website. They spend over $2.5 million giving out grants to libraries like us. SEO, the Brown Bar, a little under $500,000. That is the part of the state library. It does not stand for search engine optimization. It stands for serving every Ohioan. And it is, they are the consortium where we get our online catalog. They do all by billing for, any overdues and bills, that kind of thing. We would not be able to do anything that we do, run our library, for what the small amount we pay them every year. So it's really important that they stay a part of the state library. And then the Ohio Digital Library, the Orange, that's another $500,000. If you like to use ebooks, download ebooks and music and all that, a lot of federal funding supports those downloads. So web library is actually the databases. So if you go into, you can get to it through our webpage and you get resources. Oh, help me out here. I can't think of a single one right off. If we have Chilton's Ancestry.com.
World Book.
So that's a big deal. That's, this is where we get to the, okay, are we getting to the point where if you cannot pay for information, are you going to have access? So that's where we see potential impact. I will say again that from the state level, from the state library, they believe, because you might see some things out on social media that say that it's going to eliminate library services, which hands the money to the state. So I'm using quotation marks here. It's not going to eliminate. It's making sure that it does only what the legislature has commanded it to do. There's not any full, there's no extra. So state library feels that the IMLS is doing exactly that. And so there you go. Not me making it up. That's from the state library. Yeah, it's the state library, really is there for legislators, public libraries, school libraries. So they give grants, and that's what we apply for, to grant for some reading assistance. Well, not everybody applies, and that's another. We look at a lot of grant opportunities coming through and have to make the difficult decision of, well, we just can't apply for that because we don't have the staff to run it, because they almost never is staff part of the funding. They want you to do glitzy programs that are visible, but that you then can't sustain on your own. So it's never, equipment, almost never, buildings, no. So. No, I would imagine that they are not allowed to use any federal money for that. Yes, the state library is a line item in the state. Yes. Yeah. Good questions. Yes. I didn't add it up. So we got 2.5, 3 million, 5.5 million, $6.5 million. That's a lot of money. Let's see, what else? Because I don't want to be doom and gloom about money. Virtual meetings, number 7 on your list. So that bill that was in last year, now we can do virtual meetings, but we have to have policies before we can do this. Thankfully, yesterday, Ohio Library Council had a webinar where their attorney gave us the lowdown on the legal side of it and actually gave us sample language. Thank you. And you know, I look at it and I say, fortunately, we already do a number of things in our procedures that are covered in this policy that you have to have. You know, we give notice of meetings, we do roll call votes. There are a number of things we already do, but there are a couple of things we would have to tweak in order to do it and define, because there are some occasions when you cannot do certain kinds of votes. And so that would be something that the board has to define, what significant expenditures outside of normal operations, for example. So you would have to define that. So policy committee, I think that's April and Amber. I'm going to be putting something together for you both to look at, and then we'll probably need to have a little meeting to go over that and figure out what we think. And the Fayetteville Perry Friends of the Library. They provided a really nice report on all of their activities for them. And you know, they are actually a private organization, so I'm not going to divulge any numbers, but they are doing really well with their fundraising. You can read here what I wrote in there. But I'm just really impressed with how they're working, their social media presence, you know, getting the word out. They're doing a great job. So
They do a lot for us. Their community in person. They have been putting in a lot of hard work for us. They're so great. They actually had a fundraiser the other night.
that was the party with a purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was there, it was a huge success, so.
Yeah.
A big check coming their way, I would
That's
imagine.
nice. That's wonderful. And something that is not on the list, but I'm allowed to tell you all now. April 16th, the board members know, by April 16th is the Drucker Awards for the Chamber of Commerce. And we had to move our board retreat because I'm going to be a recipient of one of the awards. Thank you. And we're good. My family is coming, but the library is also going to buy a table. And so I've got 8 seats, 8 tickets. If you want to bring a significant other, if you can go and want to do that, we ask that your significant other, not the non-trustee, you pay your own way. But I would like to know, I'm thinking no later than April 1st, if you want to attend, so that I can make sure that if I need to get another table, that we do that. So it's a really nice event. It's just nice to see what's being done in our communities. It's networking starts at 5:30, dinner's at 6 p.m. and it's going to be at the Willow Event Center. That's 7662 Ekmansville Road in Winchester. Yeah, just over the line from Surrey. April 16th. That would have been our normal board meeting.
Next on the list is community. Is so
Yeah, just a quick reminder really about the retreat. That's going to be April the 23rd. It's the Wednesday after our normal meeting night. It's going to start at 5 p.m. I will have dinner. We are not going to be doing any regular business. It's just going to be retreat based with our consultant. He's going to be bringing the findings from all the surveying that we've been doing, the interviewing of stakeholders, so that you will have the data and be able to confirm things about our values, mission, and strategic priorities. And then the staff gets to do the work of turning that into actual things that we do, right? So I just wanted to share a little bit, because for our staff development day, I asked our consultant if there was anything that we'd like to share with staff, because they had a meeting with him in November in Service Day. Things that are really coming out of well, that came out of the stakeholder interviews. These were people we identified as being very supporters, and so we actually did 5 interviews with them. They recognize our outreach efforts and engagement in the community. They see that as very important. They know that we are more than a book lender, we're a provider of experiences. They appreciate us for meeting spaces, for free access to books and other formats of information. But what's coming out on top is that it's the staff and the way they are treated, customer service that is probably our biggest asset. So, and then we also rolled out the community survey. You might, if you're in the libraries, you might have seen it in paper if you want it. There's also a QR code. If you haven't done the survey yet, you can do that. Encourage others you know to do that. And the same thing is coming out of general members of the public about the staff members. Just the librarians are particularly beloved for their personalized service, knowing patrons by name, offering personalized book recommendations, keeping patrons informed, community space, the social side of the library. So we're kind of seeing similar things coming out of the general survey, which is really exciting. So, ready, big retreat. Well, this was of last week. We had 100 responses so far, which, it's nice, but I hate us to, base everything just 100 responses. I would like to see us get done with that. And it's being rolled out. All of our branches are communicating with their patrons that come in and trying to make sure people do the surveys, whether it's in paper right in front of them or, doing it on.
Number 7, raising AI.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. And AI and Wes, just so you all know, Wes did a little one of those BCPL buzzes on AI, and he did some demonstrations for staff, and that's also coming back on our evaluations as being a really exciting, important part of what people did that day. So good work, Wes. And then this article that I gave you, caveat that it is a publisher that wrote this, not someone who's working in libraries. But there are some things, outside of that particular bias that I think they brought out that we need to be aware of. A couple of places I highlighted is that they are finding that AI is neither as profitable nor as effective as its early advocates and hoped. So it's, everybody thought the internet was just, great thing. And of course, there are all kinds of issues, with using the internet, but hey, user experience is one of the things that they're looking for AI to do a better job at helping to provide is a better user experience, as well as creating efficiency. Really important will be developing an AI policy for how we use it in our own workplace. And I loved the on the back page about middle part of number 3. Their chatbots can also be Trojan horses spewing made-up facts with no awareness or accountability. Hallucinations, I think, is the term that Wes introduced us to. Yeah, it's a tool, I think Wes said, but it's not smart like we are. And so it needs human intervention. So just do they get here?
And it's, would you like to try her? It just isn't a hand. It's
When you use AI, like we actually specific ones that are related. So
Yeah. It's coming.
And that is one of the things that Wes also pointed out in his conversations that, we have patron information, that can't be used, because it can't be record. And so yeah, we're just starting to see all the ways it's already being used. That was another point of the evaluations was, oh, I didn't realize I'm using AI in some of the things that I'm doing. So yeah, very interesting. And I did get, there was a message in the chat. So if you're all speaking, speak up, because they said there's not much I can do with the owls volume.
Hey, Lynn, I don't even know if it's that. I think there's something wrong with the sound system, period, because you are cutting in and out. You sound like you're underwater, and then I just can't hear the board members at all. So me and Wes are just kind of like hanging, trying to see what we can hear. So if they do ask us a question or you need something from us, maybe you should repeat it.
Got it. Understood. I did notice that when I was bringing up the financial stuff, it was really working here. So we may be having some issues. Yeah. Technological issues. Surprise, surprise.
Okay, on to number 8,
Yes.
motion to approve the disposal of property, which I believe is the golden line.
Light yellow. I would call it light yellow.
Do I need a motion?
I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Tina,
yes.
Tabitha, April,
Yes.
Amber.
Yes. So Heather, you can get rid of that stuff that was on the disposal list. Now we're going to goldenrod.
All right, is this?
That's
I was
gold.
gonna
This is
say-
goldenrod.
Did we
Yes.
just do this?
Yes, it feels like we just did this, as a matter of fact. Well, so this is normally in April. We do the budget for the following year, because I have to, before the end of May, I have to give this budget to the county commissioners, because they're our taxing authority. So we are required to give them a copy of it, even though they do not do anything formal with it. They just receive it. The same budget then in July goes to the county budget commission, which is made up of the auditor, the prosecutor, and the treasurer. Every county has a budget commission. They are the ones who actually act upon it. And they have decided that the money that comes from the state, when it gets to the county, is divided 62% to the Brown County Public Library, 38% to the Union Township Public Library. And so there is no more going and advocating for what we want. It's, they just are doing a percentage, and that's a whole nother story. But that's why I have to have it done by April, but we're not having a meeting in April, so I have to get it to you in March. So I don't want to say the numbers mean nothing, but we don't know anything about what our revenue is going to really be, come the end of this year. And, I can guess about expenditures based upon what we're doing right now. So that's what you're getting, is kind of if funding just kind of is pretty stable, maybe I dropped it a little bit just, to be a little safe. And then if expenditures are running maybe a little bit, I always like to include, like a 3% increase in the wage lines, some increases in the utilities, because costs are going to go up. What I don't like about the spending plan, is on what would be your third page. It starts up with a 400 in the upper left. That's the last page of expenditures from our operational budget. Bottom right-hand line, that's gonna be the carryover into the next year. Now, we have a minimum fund balance of $350,000, and you can see that $112,662 doesn't keep us at our minimum fund. Because I just can't do that at this point. But obviously, when you approve appropriations and a spending plan at the end of this year, that will be
That'll be
where it needs to be. But for now, I'm gonna give to the two different groups something that's as close to accurate as I can get, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
Does anyone have any questions for Lynn?
It's just a projected.
It's just a projected.
Then I need a motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Tina,
Yeah.
Tabitha,
Yeah.
April,
Yes.
Amber. Yes.
Okay, number 10, we need a motion to approve lawn and landscaping contract for 2025. It is your chartreuse color page. It is.
It is,
chartreuse.
or neon
Neon
green,
green.
or I just wouldn't look at it too long because your eyes will start, yeah.
No, chartreuse is lime green. Or could you call it jello?
Jello, lime jello.
Slime,
Jello?
slime,
Lime jello.
Slime.
slime green.
Lime green's good.
That's good.
Line, yeah.
Let's not be shy. We need a motion.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Tabitha,
Yes.
April,
Yes.
Amber. Yes.
I'm sorry. Yes, but like,
Yeah.
are they like increasing the cost on any of these, or is it the same as last year, or?
So, yes and no, okay,
Okay.
because the numbers are actually the same as last year, but last year we got a 10% discount. Costs have gone up, so you can't give us the 10% discount.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, and
So-
I think we
I
talked about that
apologize.
last year.
Yeah, April, I
Or last-
apologize because the rest of us typically have these memorized. So.
you're a liar, Mark. This is a flat out lie. You do not have it memorized.
We know all these terms.
Good question. It was a good question. He has, and, we typically like to stay with a vendor for, several years before going out and putting out to bid again, because doing the bids it's a cumbersome process, but it also helps everybody
Yeah.
stay
Local
on track.
community.
Yes, local, yeah.
Yeah, and we did talk about that. last
Yeah.
year. Yeah, we did. Okay.
Yeah, we're
We
good.
did, okay. Number 11, motion to approve the group health insurance policy for the period of 5/25 to 4/30/26 with the board contribution of blank towards individual employee premium.
So, health insurance has several pieces, right? We've got the group plan. We also provide a health savings account, to employees who take the group plan, and then also, make a contribution. We make a contribution if it's the matching number. And then we also have, a vision policy as well. So 3 pieces. To me, the vision policy is a no-brainer. It's like no money. There's no cost, real cost to it. So that to me is an easy part of this, but group health insurance is very costly. And I think last year, I said, we really need to be looking at potentially making some changes in what we offer, or else we're not going to be able to sustain this as a benefit. We currently have 12 people on the policy. That's more than we've ever
Yeah, we just
had.
added 3 at the end of the year.
So about 35% of the staff participate with it. So we're looking at a benefit for 35% of staff, right? And we just need to be looking very closely at cost, because the renewal of our current plan is going to put us at over $104,000 this year of board money alone. We can't continue doing that. So we need to look at options. So I gave you a couple of different options. And you got 2 sets of legal size paper with the same colors. Right now, the one that says 80-20 at the top, that's what we have. Right now, the board pays 80% of an employee's premium, and the employee pays 20% of the premium. And so on that sheet, you have our current plan and its cost in white. You have what Anthem has said is the renewal of that plan. Now, renewals are never exact renewals. They always change something in the renewals, but the green is the renewal of our current plan. And then the yellow, the blue, and the purple are potential alternates. Now, they gave me about 20 other potential plans. But for various reasons, for example, they didn't have prescription coverage. They changed, instead of being where there's a co-insurance, they changed to a office copay system. And I just thought, if we're going to be changing potentially something else, I wouldn't want to do that to the staff at the same time and switch how they actually operate their plans. We have managed to keep deductible fairly low in the last several years. So when I think about the health insurance offered through my husband's large company that he works through, and knowing that, our deductible is $10,000 or $12,000. I look at our $3,000-ish and go, that's pretty low, in the scheme of things.
And if I'm not mistaken, as a nonprofit, this is a pretty incredible program.
As a nonprofit, I think that this is a huge benefit, a huge benefit.
Yeah, because the company I currently work for, nonprofits are the biggest bulk of business we have. So I'm dealing with nonprofits every single day. This is just a nice thing.
This is a very nice thing.
And we don't have an HR department, we're not, when you think of benefits and things like that, in a bigger company, there's always an HR department, there's always someone to call. What are you recommending? Yeah.
I am recommending that we look at potentially adjusting the premium contribution as a potential way to help reduce the overall cost to the library so it can be sustainable, as asking the employees to do a little bit more of the cost share. I could also see doing that. So one of your pieces of paper says 75-25. So I ran the numbers if we change the contribution just so we could see the numbers, right? I could see potentially doing that. And if you did that and actually upped the HSA contribution a little bit per employee who wants to do it, that actually helps them meet the deductible, even if there's a little bit more out of pocket for the premium.
Because they're gonna take that from their HSA.
Yes, yeah, because the HSA right now is $1,200 per person $1,300 per person per year. So you could up that, to $2,400 per person per year. And because of the finite number of people, and we're still saving money, and we're still, I think, balancing out the what we're asking the employees to step up and do with continuing to help them, but just doing it in a little bit different structure. So I could see doing that. I think we're going to have to bite the bullet and raise the deductible in order to keep the premium cost low, because if you look at that, about in the middle of the page, the single coverage monthly premium, if you look at that in each of those, you know, we're paying $719.64 per month per employee right now, or that's the cost. But, you know, you jump into $770 practically if you just renew the plan as it is, right? So that's, if we raise the deductible a little bit more to the 5,000 in the purple, for example, it keeps that premium almost at what it is right now.
I'm looking at.
You're looking at the blue, okay? So we can look at the blue, and just FYI, all of the prescription plans are the same for all of these. So there's, you know, there's no change, you know, in the prescription plan.
I'm leaning towards recommending the blue. There's gonna be some increase. I mean, there
Yes,
just is,
yes.
you know, so. And we understand how important this perk is to everybody, and there's not a lot of people on it. So I think at this point, my recommendation would be blue.
On the 75/25.
Or the blue
Well,
with 80/20.
my goodness, I mean, the difference is 3.86 to 3.82.
Well, and I would just say, you know, be careful because this is internal percentages. So I would say to you, look at what's the actual monthly cost to, so if you're looking at the 80/20 and you're looking at the blue line and you're looking at the monthly portion that board pays and the monthly portion that the employee pays, and then you compare that 80/20 sheet with the 75/25 sheet, you know, you can see that there, you know, there is a difference.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
So I would lean towards the 80/20 on the blue. Did you have one in mind, Lynn?
I was just looking at the purple and seeing that it has, there's no co-insurance after deductible is met. I thought that was you know, when we used to do that, but we went to the 20% at one point to keep costs down. That would still give us, if we did that, we would have more room to make considerations for next year. Now, during the blue, we still have some room, but not as much as if we went with the purple. But this is,
Purple was my second choice.
I don't know. That's a lot of money for people.
it is.
As far
It
as,
is.
as the deductible.
You
To go
jump
from 30 to.
That's a
32.55
Yeah.
as opposed to 32.50 to 3,500.
And you guys already know how I feel, like, you guys don't get paid enough, and that's a huge percentage of
Mhm.
income based on what the average rates
That's why.
are.
I do not disagree, and it
Like,
pains
that's
me to
scary.
recommend that we need to do something different, because I
Yeah.
see this and I hear this, but I know that this is a huge part of retention, you know, for people who are 30 hours a week or more. But I also look at, well, 35% of the staff are getting this benefit and, you know, this kind of money put into it versus the other 65% of the staff that are not. So I'm looking at all these factors, and I don't think there's a good answer.
Well,
But to be honest with you.
Then I'll start the bidding.
You start bidding.
That's gonna be.
Yeah.
My goal.
Or here's
Keep
another
it down.
concept.
Right.
Go back to the 75/25, but bump the deductible maybe to 4,000. In the light blue, in the blue.
I can't, that's
that's
set,
optional.
that is set by
Okay.
yeah.
These are the only choices.
These are the only, yes, because like I said, you know, the other alternate things that they presented, you know, is changing from PPO to HMO. That's a whole nother headache. I would not want people to have to go through. So I eliminated all the HMOs. I eliminated any plans that did not have prescription coverage, and this is what was left.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think blues are our best choice.
So right now, they're on an 80-20 plan,
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
Okay. Um. So they're paying 143.93. If I understand this right.
Yes, per month, per person.
Okay, and that's a 32.50 deductible out of pocket. Is that max? I don't know insurance, sorry. So
No,
it's in-
it's, yeah, that would be the max.
okay.
Because
And then-
if you stick with the 80-20, the employee cost goes up $6.
Yeah.
That's it.
But does it do enough on our end
And then on our end, a little less than 500.
per
The
employee?
board annual premium goes from,
719 to 752.
yeah,
You know, I'm really looking at that bottom line, you know, for the next to last column. What's the board annual total?
Okay.
So you look at it per employee, you're putting $8,500 per employee.
Right.
And then you multiply that by 12 people. It could be more.
oh yeah, I know. I
Um,
know. But
yeah,
we're
and
trying to balance.
we absolutely are.
Trying to
absolutely.
balance and keeping that in mind, and you know, it's not something you can take for granted, because it's again, most nonprofits don't offer this. This
That's right.
is
Yeah.
a
That's right.
neat thing. But anyway, I started the bidding envelope, 80-20 blue.
80-20.
It's your policy and I will execute it whatever the board feels comfortable doing. Yeah, you've heard me what my, you know, my various things that I'm looking at and thinking about.
You know, who you think?
Yeah, cause I'm like.
On
looking
here,
at
the
this
little,
one,
I have this
I'm like,
little,
Oh, you have the, because
it's 2 by.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
here. Too little. Here, I've got a whole nother set here. There's a whole.
Oh, okay.
And,
I don't
yeah, I'm
understand
gonna do insurance.
I don't even know.
Okay, what about keeping the current plan and going to the 75-25 and increasing their HSA? I feel like the premium, the single coverage monthly premium on it is less, am I looking at it wrong? But it looks less to me than the rest of them, so why would we switch to any of the other?
Well, if we went to 75-25 and went with the green, that's the renewal.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, their monthly employee costs would be $192.31, and right now they're paying $143.93.
That'd be $100 extra a month,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why I was trying to keep
50.
that down.
50.
April,
50 and
the
50.
increase.
I feel
Yeah,
like
just
we need to
50.
stay
Okay.
80-20, cause that's a big jump, right? $50 a
Yeah.
month.
Well, if you do multiple changes at a time, right? If we really
Yeah.
change the plan and then really change the percentage of
Yeah.
contribution, yes, yeah, it is.
Gotcha, okay. I
Yeah,
see that.
yeah.
And what's wrong with the green one?
It's not a good color.
Kelly green's okay. It's not,
I mean,
it doesn't look good on me.
It's
Doesn't look good on
That's
me.
the renewal, it's just the.
Yes.
I'm
It took
looking.
me a minute to figure it out, cause I was
It's
looking
what
at
they
the
have now.
current, yes,
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, that's,
What if
I'm
we
thinking,
would
just
just, what would
what
the
we got.
renewal?
The renewal would be,
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
there's a slight change. They did a $50 increase on the deductible is what they did. And the premium went up by, $10 per month for each employee.
As opposed to the blue, where it only goes up $6.
$6.
47 cents or
Yes.
whatever,
Yes,
with just an increase at $250 on the deductible.
yes, and everything else the same.
So we're adding more on our costs to pick up. At the same time, employees are contributing a little bit more. So it's kind of that shared.
It's shared, but we're sharing the increase, with the same percentages of
What
payment.
was the point when you said you wanted, that we weren't going to be able to sustain what we're doing
Well-
now, with what we're contributing now? Is that what you said? in
That's
the
what,
long
yeah,
run?
so this year,
So you're trying to get
98,
that number lower from what the
I'm-
board is paying.
I would, I would feel most comfortable if we could keep it under $100,000 that we're paying a year.
No. Right now, the board annual total per employee is 8,208, correct?
Yes.
But if we go for next year to the 75-25 and go with the green, it's almost the same, 8,223. So
It
it's
is.
only a $15 difference
It is,
for the board,
but
but for the
It's a
employees,
huge.
it is a
it goes
huge jump.
from 143.93 to 192
Yes.
every single month.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
And
what's
that's
the-
why if we made multiple changes, you'd really need to go with like the purple plan and the other in order for it to be more affordable and less of a. Yeah.
So, what's the HSA difference in these plans?
There is no difference in the HSA. It's an HSA, board decides how much they contribute. We've been doing a total of $1,300 per year. If the employee does $25 per pay. So, do the math. We are really putting significantly more into their HSA, than they are, but we're asking them to step up and do something.
Additional hook.
It is
Typically is not.
Duke Energy. Some other big employer, they would do $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jeremy School District does 750.
tops.
Yes, yeah, I mean, this.
And only if you can match at 1-to-1.
Right, that is, yeah.
So that's a huge, but we also, because we know we don't pay at top end of the scale, we're looking at what can we do to help with this deductible, and that's the.
Do you guys have any policies in play that if you are married and your spouse carries insurance, you're not eligible?
We do not.
I used to work for an employer that did that.
My employer does
Mine does
that.
that, yeah.
They're nasty about it too.
Yeah.
And we don't see that as a benefit. We,
You don't limit that.
the other part of the benefit is everyone can look at their own situations and decide whether, okay, best for me to be on this plan and for the rest of the family to be on somebody else's plan, or whatever it is, that's.
Do you like the blue? Looking at the blue, not you pointed that out, like for the employee and for us.
It's a dance.
It is a dance, my uncomfortableness is that we're
Still
over
too-
100,000.
Yeah.
It's that one or two.
Yeah,
And it's not gonna get any better
right.
next year.
So then what do you do next year? Look at it again? And it goes
I
up
mean, that's
again?
what we typically,
That's what we do.
we're looking at it all the time
We are.
and trying to make the best decisions.
Yeah.
All right, guys, anybody else? Are we ready to go?
Okay, so I'm torn between the blue and the yellow.
And they are very similar.
It's just, the difference is the cap is 7,500. And $1,000 for the board. So if I'm, okay, so once, let's just say $7 more a month, the other one's $9 more a month, so 9 times 12 is 108, so it's $108. If I pay that, then I'm also having to pay
$250 more in deductible.
so that 250 more. I guess I'm just leaning towards the yellow, because at least it keeps the out of pocket, the max. And I'm sure because of HIPAA, we can't know like the percentage of people that use that, but
And I will just say, the more we're spending now, it's gonna be even more next year. And at what point do I say, okay, you have to live with the fact that we're not gonna buy as many books? Or do I not fill a position that becomes vacant?
So maybe, as a thought. We cap it. Like the magic number is 100. In your mind, you'd like to keep it below 100.
just because of what I see coming
Right,
in the
right.
next
Maybe-
year.
How would you see the difference?
Um,
What would that look like?
so what we would have to do, so like hypothetically, if we voted to cap, the board's contribution, let's hypothetically say 105. And, you know, we pass a motion, then every year thereafter, as we're reviewing health insurance, our decision-making is gonna be based upon what that cap is. So that means we may have to go with a higher deductible, or we may have to go out of pocket. What's fascinating about this is trying to balance between our great employees, and at the same time the board, and what is affordable. I'm with Glenn now, we're probably gonna have to cap it. Is Glenn, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know if capping it at that level or capping it at what the board's monthly premium might be an easier place. I don't know, bookkeeper. Where it would be easier to, you know.
Have the calculator out, and is that 8,200 times 12,
Could you do it?
8,250?
Could you do it, so let's say scenario we go with flu, it's $150.54, right? And the board out of pocket, what's the board out of pocket for that one?
4,
102,
308.74.
so let's say we capped it at 100. So we have $2,300, and you said 12 people use it, right? And they get paid twice a month. $8.01. Could we charge them on top of their 150 an additional variance of $8 to make up the difference?
I don't think so.
I don't
That's
believe so
messy.
either, because if we set the premium at 80/20, you have to apply that.
Could it be something more nuanced than 80/20 then? Or 75/25, some in-between thing that would make it work for what you need and not
You know,
hurt them too badly.
what's interesting, it's 83,000, I'm sorry, 8,300. That's the magic number.
Okay,
Board contribution,
Okay.
8,300,
Okay.
okay. We're coming back to the purple, which I originally suggested. Because you're at 8271, so that keeps it under the 83. It's an increase of $2.47. But your deductible's at bottom.
That's a huge.
No, it is, but again, balancing dance, you know, both sides are contributing, kind of like co-insurance.
I feel like though
making
that
it
that's
cap-
gonna make so many people not be able to afford if something big happens, they're toast.
But, okay, another way to think about it, you think about your household. You know, if you're married, you have a spouse, significant other, employee, maybe has insurance, so you're not gonna use the board. So someone who's using this insurance is either single or in a household, maybe unemployed or whatever, their employer. So this is what you've got. At the same time, you're working for a nonprofit, you typically, Lynn knows that a $5,000 deductible is not at the ordinary, not bad at all. Based on both personal experience and based on mine as well. Unless Tina, you
would you,
I guess
would,
it's not the number, it's the variance, right? If we were starting at 4,500 and went to 5,000, that would be a big deal.
Mhm,
It's the variance, like $1,500 is a big deal
mhm.
for people that.
Well, and you said that you went back to your original thing and said the purple, but that was my original. You went with the blue first.
Yeah.
Just if you think of the whole thing.
I was gonna say, out of our 12 employees that have this, they only have it on themselves. We have one employee that is single
Some
plus their
dependents.
dependents. So they don't, there's
So they're
not one
working.
spouse.
They're working for.
yeah, that one person, but everybody else is a single.
Um.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a topic, there's
It
no
is.
right or wrong
Plus, if we,
answers.
with setting a $105,000 cap, what happens if we employ two more people
Yeah.
and
And
they
they
both
take
want
it.
insurance,
Yeah.
you
It's-
know?
it's-
I just don't know how,
You're 100%
on a
right.
payroll person, how I would know to, you can't just
That's why,
increase,
yeah, you can't, yeah.
So it's almost like, you know, we have to leave a little bit of room, you know, just in case.
Now, the one thing that's, I couldn't possibly put into here that will bring down that board annual total a little bit per employee is that not every employee does the HSA.
Right.
So
Half of
there's half of them do, right? So right now,
Is
you know,
that our
half of
cushion
it,
then?
what's that?
Is that our cushion?
That's our cushion. That is our cushion. So knowing that, you know, it's gonna be really close to 100,000 if we do the blue with 80/20.
I never said it, I said it.
You liar. How many times have I called him a liar tonight?
No,
Yeah.
I'm good with
So,
with the purple, cause that,
Can I just throw something out there?
Yeah.
Being a math challenged person, I will fully admit it. Where my head is exploding here, I think, is that putting like a stop. That means like if you hire more people, like somebody just said,
Yeah.
does that mean they can't get insurance until other people
You
don't?
can't do that.
No.
You can't do that.
Okay, then so is that then just a magic made up number that doesn't really serve us a purpose?
I think we kind of figured that because it
Yeah.
would be, we would not be able to do that.
Deny that.
We couldn't, we couldn't.
No, I
we
couldn't
did-
say,
We couldn't do the payroll.
in
We would not.
September, you're gonna get $5 more
Yeah, yeah.
taken because we've hit.
So I think that going to Mark's original blue suggestion, if we do not have the remainder of the people going on the HSA, it will keep it down, but it will keep our total cost down now, but it might go up if we have, you know, some people leave, we're not gonna add any positions in the near future, but, you know, if we had somebody leave who was not on insurance and somebody came in who did take it, it could increase our bottom line cost. But the blue one, as Mark or somebody pointed out, the deductible does not increase that much. The out-of-pocket individual does not increase that much. And everything else remains the same, right? The prescription remains the same, the co-insurance remains the same, and the cost goes up very small amount. Like I said, I don't like seeing $100,000 or more, you know, because of how unsustainable this is going. It's just gonna get worse every year, but I think this is the next step, because next year they may turn it to a $5,000 deductible and we don't have any choice.
and I
We
have,
do it.
I do have a grant finale.
85,
85.50?
15 at school. I was trying to see,
Yeah.
because every time we get a raise, they increase our insurance, so the raise
Doesn't make
matter
any
to us.
difference, yeah.
So I just wanted to see,
Yeah.
because I do not understand insurance one bit. I just know that more comes out of my check, obviously,
Yeah.
right? I just wanted to, but I knew that we had gotten this email, because when we did our new contract this summer, it was like locked in that we would not, insurance would not go up. And it did anyways, because our consortium voted and our board had no say
Say
in
in
what the
it.
consortium
Yeah.
would said. So we did a 3.69% increase on our premium, so we're doing 85.15. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
I was like, look.
What
I'm
is
like,
that?
I don't know
Yeah,
what That is, you know, compared to what we pay. I just was wondering how that looked.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a grant finale.
Grant.
So if we, or what I would propose is, you know, going with the blue for all the reasons we discussed. No cap, and then we just have an understanding as a board, we have to look at this every year, and there's gonna be changes every year.
And communicating that to the people
Yeah.
who are employed, saying, you know, here, and I think even just showing this to them.
Yeah.
And say, here's where we landed and here's why. And please know that we're doing the very best we can to maintain the same level of whatever for you. But we will have to revisit this each year and, you know, the board will make a decision. We will share options with you and you might be able to give us some feedback.
Can we give them a choice on what they choose to do? Cause my employer tells us, you know, this is how much you'll pay if you choose this
Free
one.
option.
This is how much you pay if you choose this one.
That's a good
You
idea,
make the
if it's
choice.
possible.
Yeah.
Then we're not making the choice for them and what we're, you know,
Can you
do
do
you
that?
want the $5,000 deductible but pay less of, you know, every month? Or do you want the $3,500 deductible?
I do
and
not
pay a
believe,
little more?
I do not believe that is an option for us because we have a special rating through MIWA, whatever, Soka
Oh.
MIWA. It's it's through the Chamber Alliance and I mean, you have to choose.
Basically, it's like a group purchasing.
It's a group purchase, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
And
It is, it
I'm
is.
Making the choice for other people.
Well,
You know what I mean?
and-
Cause some
Yeah.
people would rather pay a little bit more every month, but then.
And have a
Yeah.
catastrophic
Yeah.
plan,
Right.
like,
Yes.
you know,
right.
like
Like who even knows how many people hit the
to like
deductibles?
pay their
Yeah.
electric bill or something.
I
So I, you know, I think that unfortunately what happens is, you know, we don't get this information, you know, sometimes I'm getting this like 2 days before the board meeting.
Mhm.
And we have to do something in March because
It-
April is
April-
open
their
enrollment
first check in
and
April
May
is
1st
effective.
is, so
Right.
so there's not a lot of time for employee feedback at when you first, you know, when you get it.
Yeah.
But having the conversation about, you know, we're struggling with this, you know, and they could watch the YouTube live and see the conversation and know that, you know, this is, we're concerned, right, about everybody's costs.
I
Um,
think transparency is key.
Absolutely.
I like the idea of communicating that
Yeah.
in a way that,
I think this would overwhelm a lot of them.
So just take the blue stripe.
Right.
Yeah.
Just say
And
like,
explain it.
and this is why we're doing this. We want to be
Yes.
very transparent. We have your best interest, you know, in mind. But, okay, I go back to the survey. We have a good staff. That is the reason why people like our library, and we're seeing that in the survey. So is it worth the board to spend 4,000 more a year to keep that level of quality of service? And so that's where I'm thinking in my mind, like, you have to it's not just numbers, it's about keeping your staff happy. And sometimes that costs a little bit more money. And so that's where my mind is if they're giving us that level of commitment and quality and customer service, then it's up to us to accommodate them as much as we can. So that's where I'm coming from for this. And so, and I'm okay with the blue. But I just want you guys to be able to communicate that with them, like,
Yeah.
we're doing the best we can
Yeah,
with what we've got,
absolutely.
you know?
You know, and I will just, you know, say again that I'm totally agree with everything you said, you know. 35% of the people are getting this benefit. And so when we're talking about dollars, I have to think about all of those staff members who are not getting the benefit.
They're choosing not to.
It-
Because
it's-
they have it
it's a
elsewhere.
choice.
Maybe
most likely.
it absolutely is a choice, but it's also how much of our budget are we putting towards something that's only benefiting that many people?
What if,
So,
what if the HSA thing became we don't contribute to that, but you can? We provide the bucket for you and you can choose.
think anybody would contribute?
No.
I don't think anybody would contribute.
That's the perk of it, is having the match.
Yeah, the
Right.
matches.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a big deal.
they're only putting in what they have to.
But you remember when HSAs first started, it wasn't the monster match when
Right,
HSAs
yeah.
first started.
Yeah,
And it was just an opportunity for employees to
Put
put
money
money
away,
away.
yes.
And it wasn't until
Pre-tax,
recent
yes,
years
yeah.
that employers started. So you want the purple instead?
I
It is our
love
favorite
purple,
color.
but I don't think that this situation warrants purple.
Okay, can we put, motion to blue?
Yeah.
Blue at
Yes.
80/20.
Yep. So we need a motion.
I'll make a motion
I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Tabitha, April,
Yes.
Amber.
Yes.
And then the next item is
Should be
what
easy.
Lynn said, it's a no-brainer.
It's
So
a
I need a motion to approve the vision insurance rider for group health insurance policy for the period of 5/1/25 to 4/30/26 with board contribution of 80% toward individual employee premium Anthem Vision Plan name number MEWA FS.A 10.25.150.150-52
I'm not repeating that.
Mm-mm.
Yes.
Barb.
I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Tabitha,
Yes.
April,
Yes.
Amber.
Yes.
Okay, number 13. We need a motion to approve the health savings account program administered by Navia for employees enrolled in the library's group health insurance plan for 5/1/25 to 4/30/26. For each employee contributing a minimum of $25 per day pre-tax deduction through payroll, the board will do a matching contribution of $325 per quarter, not to exceed the $1,300 per year. Board match is prorated based upon the amount of time given the plan the year that the employee HSA is established. The board reserves the right to change the contribution schedule at any time at its discretion.
This is what we do right now.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So I
No
need a
changes.
motion.
We're changing.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Tabitha, April,
Yes.
Amber.
Yes.
Thank you for your discussion on that. It's a big deal. And I appreciate,
I love this group. You know, the group, you know, it's changed, you know, from years ago, but what a great group.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Number 14, motion to confirm replacement of the front door at Georgetown by AC Glass for $11,650, which is your hot pink.
yes.
That blows my mind, but I'll move.
Well, you'd approved up to 15,000.
Right, I know we did. I know we did.
It just seems like
We did that.
Lynn got her done for 11,600.
Yes.
I'll second.
Amber already did.
Oh, I didn't hear. Sorry.
We're too busy hooting and hollering. Mark,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Tabitha,
Yes.
April,
Yes.
Amber.
Yes.
And that includes labor and everything.
That's labor and everything, and that's actually an upgrade to 1-inch glass.
That's right.
Insulated glass. Yes. We thought it would be important for that front door to have extra.
And it's the key card entry.
Not on the front door. We're looking for staff doors to be that, yeah.
Number 15, we need a motion to enter executive session to consider the employment of public employees.
I'll make the motion.
I will second.
Mark,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tracy,
Yes.
Tina, Tabitha, April,
Yes.
Amber.
Yes.
So Heather, Wes, or Brooke, any parting words before we actually start discussing executive session stuff?
I do actually. Without saying too much, as someone who does have our insurance and these things you guys were discussing, I really want to say thank you guys so much for laboring over that as long as you did and truly taking into consideration all of the options on our behalf. I appreciate that so much. I know that our staff does too. So I just wanted to say to all of you, thank you for, I know you guys do always take, you know, our best interests to heart, but I actually got to witness that tonight and I just want to say thank you.
And Wesley said in the chat, thank you also much for the dedication for our staff. We appreciate you so much. So, yeah. Thank you.
Ditto.
Sharing that, all of you. Yeah, really appreciate that. All right, well, I'm